Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Essie Fisher, and I am the author of the memoir Sinister Hands and Peachtree Miracles. This is the book, and if you can see it, and this is available on Amazon.com in ebook and paperback form. I'd like to welcome you today to our second session visit with TJ. For those of you who have read the book, you will know who TJ is. And I felt it was important that he not only get a chance to share some of his story with you, but also give the listeners a chance to ask questions. Or if there's something that you need clarified, please feel free to enter your comments in the chat box at the right of your screen. We will try to answer as many questions or acknowledge as many comments as possible. We've named this particular session a unique love story. And I know your question is going to be, well, isn't this about child abuse? And it is. But it's also a unique love story, a love story that focuses on unconditional love. Because there is hope. And we not only want to tell the story of child abuse, but we also want to focus on the hope. There is hope. We want to encourage those of you who are dealing, who maybe have been victimized. We want to encourage those of you who have a relative or know of someone who's been victimized and you're trying to offer some help. So that is one of the reasons why we decided to focus on the love story. I will introduce TJ in just a minute and let him speak to you. But the love story began back when TJ was 3 years old. And we were looking to adopt a little boy. And we walked into the adoption agency because the agent had set up a time for us to meet TJ. And when I walked into the room and saw this little 3-year-old boy who had visible scars on his arm, a distended stomach, which of course pointed to the fact that he was malnourished. He had the scowl on his face and his fist was balled up as if he was saying, "Don't touch me, don't come near me." And I've often told him that when I took one look at him, I fell in love. In other words, he crawled up into my heart and took a permanent seat. That was the beginning of the love story. And I don't think it only happened to me, because throughout the year after we adopted him, his dad has shown unconditional love. His sister Lynn has shown unconditional love. So he was blessed to have not just his mother, but the entire family just loving on him and doing what we could to help him crawl out of the hellhole that he had gone through, that he was in because of what he had gone through. I'm going to give TJ a chance to talk and introduce himself. For those of you who have not gotten the book and have not read his story, I encourage you to do so, because he has nuggets of wisdom to share from his standpoint that I can't share, that will benefit anyone who listens. So TJ, would you just take a minute and talk about unconditional love? Introduce yourself and then talk about unconditional love.
Sure. First of all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching from. I'll try to keep the intro short. So I am TJ, 47 years old. And currently, I am working for a very large payroll company in a what you could call a senior level leader position. I also am an avid golfer, and I coach high school football. So the high school football thing, a lot of that has to do. I don't really do it for the money. I mean, anyone that knows anything about high school football or about high school coaching, when it's all broken down, the little stipend that you get is pennies on the dollar. So that is kind of my give back. You'll have to read the book to kind of understand exactly what it is that I'm giving back, and we're going to talk about some of it here today. But again, it's really my attempt to pay forward some of the blessings that I've received over the years. Um, Happy to be here with all of you today. My hope is that through these conversations, through the book, through the sharing of the experiences that I've had, that I am able to touch someone. Even I've told my mom this in the past, like even if it is one person, if I'm able to make some level of difference, then all of the time spent on coming and talking with you today, and the things that we'll do in the future will have been more than worth it. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. And you said you wanted me to talk about unconditional love.
Unconditional love. Yes, please.
Yeah. So again, you'll have to read the book to get more insight on this, but early on for me in the early stages of my life, I didn't get a whole lot of unconditional love. Wasn't really until after I was adopted that I think I was even introduced and over the years was led to understand what unconditional love is. For me, I would define it as just an unyielding um, uh, care, level of support, um, level of encouragement. And again, for me, it doesn't mean that there aren't tough times. It doesn't mean that there isn't turbulence. It just means that when all of those things are done and gone, the love and that support that I talked about and that encouragement that I talked about, all of those things remain, regardless of whatever turmoil someone may go through. And it's not, unconditional love it's not a mother, father, son, daughter type of thing. I think anyone has the ability to show that and to give it. And a lot of times folks, and I would just add that I think the other part of unconditional love for me is consistency. Like you can't, it's, if it's a moment or if it's a fleeting type thing, then likely it was never unconditional to begin with. It is something that stands the test of time. And again, like I said, I am blessed to be able to say, like, I have people in my life today, whether friends or family, that have shown and continue to show me unconditional love by way of that definition that I just gave you.
Very good. That's so powerful. And it kind of, I want to share with the listening audience a page from the book that talks about, and this is where I think it started. And this happens about a month after you were adopted, and you were still just trying to fight your own little battles, but now you were becoming defiant. And one of the reasons I believe you were so defiant is because you didn't want to believe that you could be happy. You had gotten toys. You were now able to come to the table and sit down and eat without someone taking the food away from you. And this made you uncomfortable. And so you had gotten to the point where I would tell you to do something and you'd sit there and you'd give me an emphatic no. And I don't know if you stomped your foot or not, but you would scowl up your face, poke out that lip, and ball up the fist and just stand there. And I said, go do this. No. And so I find at first I kind of let it go. I said, well, maybe you are, just give you a chance to get over it. And then finally I realized we were creating a little monster. So we had to do something. So one day I made the decision. I called you over. I knelt down. I put my arms around you. And I said this to you. And for those of you who have the book and may want to go back and refer to it, I'm reading from page 122. And it basically says, TJ, I know you are trying to make me angry enough so that I will either hit you or not love you anymore. That is not going to happen. I may not like it that you refuse to do what I ask you to do, but I love you and will continue to love you no matter what. Your being stubborn will not make me stop loving you. Now, little man, get your butt moving and go over there and do what I asked you to do 10 minutes ago. And with that, you gave me this sly smile and just trotted off and even had the nerve to do a little swagger with your little trot.
I still have that swagger, by the way.
Anyway, yes, I know you do. You do it well, son. But going back, why do you think that particular statement took the scowl off your face and brought the, not only the smile, but relaxed? And I can remember your body being tense when I called you. And your body relaxed and you trotted off and did what you were supposed to do. What was that about that encounter that changed you? Oh, what do you think it was?
I think, there were two things going on there. I think the first is I was testing you, as a lot of kids do. But my testing was probably more extreme because of what I had gone through, what I had experienced. The fact that I didn't have unconditional love. I talked earlier about not even knowing what unconditional love was. I really only knew, kind of one kind of love at the time. And it was all conditional. As you go through foster homes and things like that, kids know that,
yes,
they're in a foster home and that, the folks that they're with are getting paid and, and that's what we equate love to almost, right? Yeah. Because, we're being fed, we're being given a bed, and then the folks that are doing all those things for us are being paid for it. And so I think there was, again, there was a kind of a testing thing there. And it was almost like, let's see if I do this, let's see what happens. And let's see how they react. Okay. And that's kind of the testing part. I think the other side of it for me is I don't know. I think at the time I didn't feel like I was deserving of love. And I have no doubt I was told on occasion that I wasn't necessarily deserving of it. And sometimes folks do that to make the things that they're giving you seem, even more grand and almost to build themselves up, right? You're not deserving of this, but I'm going to give it to you, right? And so, like, for me, to your question about like what made the difference and why did that bring a smile to my face,
Mm-hmm.
uh, if I go back to the testing part, it was because you kind of passed the test, right? I tried to do it. I tried to be defiant.
Mm-hmm.
I normally, when I did that, I got a different reaction, right, than you had
Mm-hmm.
given me. Um, and to be honest, it like that, you're talking about a specific instance, but that interaction, that type of interaction between you and I happened multiple times.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'd go back to what I talked about again on unconditional love and the fact that it has to be consistent. So that
Yes.
testing is not like a one-time thing. It's going to
Yes.
happen over and over and over again. And they say, in when you think about like customer service, they say you got to do 100 things to build a customer's loyalty, but it
Right.
only takes one thing, right, to completely damage all of that. The
Yeah.
same goes and the
Yeah.
same went for or with our interaction. The
Yes.
same type of rule applied. If
Mm-hmm.
you weren't consistent, and you didn't give that hug and that reassurance and that encouragement over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we had that one time, right, where you were just out of your right mind and it didn't happen. That's all it would take for me to
Yeah.
revert back and say, okay, I knew it. It wasn't real. She's just like all the other ones.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
long answer to a short question, but
Yes, but very, I mean, there is such nuggets of wisdom in there. And it means so much more coming from you than coming from me because I'm seeing it from a totally different perspective. You were experiencing it and going through it. And so this is invaluable. And again, we encourage you to participate. If you are not on live now, but you will get a chance to see this later, please respond and give us feedback because this helps us answer your questions. Again, for those who may be coming on late, my name is Essie Fisher, and I'm the author of the memoir Peachtree. Sinister Hands and Peachtree Miracles. I got to know what I wrote. There it is.
there you go. You got it.
Okay. And it's available on Amazon.com in ebook and paperback format. All right, Mr. TJ, I have, by the way, that was just an incredible answer. And I thank you so much for that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go back and listen to that again and probably use some of that in my speech. I will be, for those of you who live in the Salt Lake City area, I will be speaking at the Kearns Library on Friday, July 2nd at 6:30. Would love for you to attend and come back and say hello, and I would be happy to autograph your book. Okay, the next question I have for you. There was an incident that took place when you were probably 10 or 11. And one day you decided to risk the reprimand of your dad and go into his closet, steal his sweater and his trumpet. Your plans were to take it to the pawn shop, not knowing that the pawn shop doesn't take things from little 10 or 11-year-old boys. But anyway, your reason for doing that, you said, was that you wanted to get some money to be able to take your friends and treat them. So why would you risk all of that to go and get money, not to spend on yourself, but to treat your friends?
So there was a need, a desire to feel wanted, to feel important to feel relied on. And, if I go back to what I had mentioned about what my perception was of love, and how people showed love, from the time I was in foster care, it was about someone getting paid. I was, even at 4 years old, like, I was aware that my foster parents were being paid, and some of them made it apparent to me that I don't have to do this, but I'm doing it, because I love you, and so I equated that love with payment. And so my taking the trumpet, taking the sweater, for that matter, like, I can remember taking $100 out of Dad's wallet, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. When we lived in Hacienda Heights, and I took it out, went to my room, I hid it, and forgot where I hid it. So I went back to his wallet. Now, how I possibly thought that he wouldn't notice that there was $200 missing, I don't know. But obviously, there was I was a little naive at the time. But same difference, right?
Much naive.
Yeah, and so, like, I took it, and I can remember, whether, again, it was a sweater and trumpet money, whether it was that $100, I took it and took all my friends, almost remember this, to a little pizza shop, bought everybody pizza, paid for everybody's arcade games. And again, my thinking at the time was, this is what I need to do in order to harness and garner friends, and for people to like me. And that was, again, going back to the foster home story, like, that was my understanding of how you did that. That was my understanding of how you got people to love you.
Wow. That's powerful. That's powerful. And I'm sure someone who is going to be seeing this video, if they're not on now, will relate to that. They may have children or grandchildren who are doing that right now. And people will there's a basic need to be loved and to be liked and to be a part of something. And peer pressure is strong too. You want to be liked by your peers. And even as adults, we want to have friends, and we want to be liked by our friends. And you can imagine what a child is going through, or someone, even in school, who is maybe being bullied, or who does not feel like they fit in, and they're trying to be accepted. They're doing everything. And sometimes they go to extremes to do this. They want that love. Again, we come right back to the topic of love. And it's so important for parents, for teachers, for guardians, for anyone who is interacting with the children, and with your grandchildren, with your children, with your neighbors, whomever, to just stop and take a look and take a listen, and show some unconditional love, because it's something we all need.
Yeah, I would add that, I talked about being a football coach earlier. And I also, in terms of trying to pay it forward, and to, give back some of those blessings and examples that you and Dad set. I had a player that I would literally, I'd drive him. Him and his mom were in a hotel, living out of a hotel. And they were kind of moving from hotel to hotel, and I would give him a ride home. And I can remember him asking me to stop at 7-Eleven on the way home one day, and he went in and he got a bunch of candy, Hostess and stuff, and came out. And I'm like, what's that? He said, this is dinner. And so I ended up taking him to the grocery store. We bought groceries, went back to the hotel, helped him carry the groceries into his mom. He's now in Texas, living in Texas. He's a real estate agent. And really, I tell that story to say, if you can make a difference, make a difference.
Yes.
You never know if that opportunity presents itself to you.
Yes.
Don't let it pass, because you never know, what is going on behind the scenes, and try to understand and try to get some of that information of what's going on behind the scenes. And again, if you're given an opportunity to make a difference, do it.
Very well said. Very well said. Well, we're going to bring this to a close. We don't have questions. So we will probably get them at a later time. But one of the things I want to do, I want to close with a little, I guess it would be a scenario from the viewpoint of a 5-year-old who was asking, the teacher was asking the kids in her class, what is love? And of course, they came up with all kinds of answers, like if somebody shares their French fries with you, even though they only have a few and French fries are their favorite, then that's love. And of course, some of the very typical and humorous answers. But this one little 5-year-old boy said, he thought when he asked, what is love? He was asked, what is love? He thought for a minute, and then he said, love is when my grandpa gets down on his hands and knees and paints my grandma's toenails. He does this because she has arthritis and she can't do it. But he has arthritis too. And sometimes his hands and his knees hurt real bad. But he says he does this because he loves her. And he wants to show her that he loves her. I stopped and thought about that for a minute. I'm saying, that 5-year-old hit the nail on the head, because it's like we've been talking. Unconditional love sometimes requires that we hurt. We do things in spite of the pain. We do things to show the recipient of that love that we do love them and that we are willing to endure the pain. And when things are not going so well, to love them in spite of it. And of course, then I thought, as my son was talking about, it has to be consistent. The grandpa puts the toenail polish on, toenail polish is going to wear off. He's going to have to go back and get down on his hands and knees and paint the toenails again. And when we really stop and think about unconditional love, I think that's a good scenario to keep in mind. The fact that we are willing to do whatever it takes to show that person we love them, whether they can reciprocate or not. Be consistent. Sometimes it hurts. It won't always be easy, but it's certainly worth it. And to encourage all of you, we never know. TJ's dad and I and his sister, we had no idea when we were consistently showing that unconditional love that he would turn out the way he has, to be as successful as he is, to have 5 beautiful children who are successful, living their lives, and he and his wonderful wife have just done a marvelous job of raising their kids and demonstrating through action what it means to give unconditional love. So I hope you have gotten something from the video and that you will take time to write comments as you watch it. And please, if you want to contact us and have other questions to ask, you can also reach me at thecreativevisionaries.com. Again, thecreativevisionaries.com. And lastly, don't forget to go to Amazon.com and order Sinister Hands and Peachtree Miracles so you can fill in all the gaps that we were not able to cover today. Wishing all of you a great and fantastic and safe weekend. And hopefully we'll be able to come back and do another session soon. TJ?
All right. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We do have a comment that says, I'm enjoying the book. Can you see it, TJ?
I can, yeah. I'm enjoying the book so much. Love you, fam.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being on here, and share the book, share the story, encourage your friends and family and neighbors and everybody else to grab a copy.
And love you too, Arlinda.
Take care.
All right. Bye, everyone.